Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. It's Thursday, and you know what? We're here to talk some NFL action. Welcome in. I'm Donnie Seymour, along with Kyle Purviance. We are the NFL team here at sportsbookreview.com. And it's time to talk some Week 3 preseason action. And you know what? Used to be Week 3, Kyle, man, still got another week of preseason, Game 4, and then we hit the regular season. Not so fast. This weekend wraps it up. You take sort of that quasi-bye week in between, and we kick off for real exactly 2 weeks from tonight, Thursday Night Football, and that is between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the world champions, and the Dallas Cowboys, the most expensive franchise in the history of the world. So we're ready for football season. Are you? 87,700 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. Fantastic stuff. The fun is just begun. And also, Kyle, as you know, the Pick 6 contest. Get in it here. $50,000 up for grabs. $1,600 per week. It's all there. If it's free, it's me, as we like to say. This is an NFL show. If you love the NFL show like I do, pick all 6 in the NFL. If you love college football, pick that as well. As long as you have those 6 plays in, 4-2, 3-3, 5-1, 6-0, doesn't matter. Get them in the contest. Get in with sportsbookreview.com. Let's have some fun talking NFL action. But Kyle, this week used to be the big week in the preseason where most people have the dress rehearsal. Now the rehearsal has already been dressed.
Yeah, and some would say it's our final bye week as well. It's going to be a mad sprint with a lot of stuff going on with baseball going till November. So it's our last little bye week too. So I'm going to try to soak that in just a little bit here while we get a little ease on the schedule. But yeah, week 3 used to be the cool one, right? Preseason week 3 is like, okay, we're getting a half of the starters, barring some sort of weird hit or fall. We're going to get the starters. But now this is the de facto week 4, I suppose. So some teams, maybe the Saints let both quarterbacks play. Maybe Sean Payton hasn't decided. I don't know how he couldn't, but maybe he's putting some weight in like, hey, it's the Jacksonville defense, so everyone's going to torch the Jacksonville defense. So maybe Jameis didn't look as good as maybe we thought he did. But, for the most part, you're going to see a lot of backups getting ready for week 1. A lot of these teams don't want to risk injury. You're going to see a lot of teams probably tell their guys, stay away. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that we don't have the little COVID things, which for whatever reason they want to keep going on with, even though we know these players will be perfectly fine. That's a whole nother show. So it's going to be a different type of week, not your typical week 3 in preseason. So of course, make sure you approach everything with a grain of salt. Some big lines. We're going to get to that here in just a moment. Some big lines for this weekend. Think it's kind of interesting.
No, it is interesting here, and there's a lot of stuff to still go over because we're going to get to some of the preseason games here in week 3, cover it, see what type of games we like, what maybe some, added incentive in some of these football teams, because Kyle brought up as we were talking before the show started, hey, man, take a look at some of these big lines for week 3, and it's interesting. And that tells you right away which team is actually caring about playing in the preseason and which team is saying, hey, man, we are ready for the regular season. But let's talk some quarterback talk here because this is the hottest topic of the summer. Yeah. All these football teams and their quasi-battles, as I like to say, at quarterback, when we know who should be the starter typically, but some surprises do pop up. Teddy Bridgewater. The best part about, NFL talk between myself and Kyle coming back once again this year is we don't always agree, which is great. Yeah. If we agreed on every single subject will be the point of us coming on. Hey, Kyle, love the Giants this week. Me too. Hey, Kyle, love the 49ers this week. Me too. I mean, that's not the whole point of the show. The point is to have a good conversation here and see if that point gets across and says, you know what, I can see that. Teddy Bridgewater starting for the Denver Broncos. I like to preface this by saying with this spot, I do think Teddy Bridgewater right now is a better quarterback than Drew Lock. I think if you start Teddy Bridgewater throughout this season, you do have a chance to get to the playoffs. You have a chance to win maybe an extra game. But what I look at for a Denver Broncos and the health of the franchise here for myself is I need to find who the franchise quarterback is. So when I look at this football team, can Drew Lock be the starting quarterback of the future for the Denver Broncos? Maybe. But when I look at Teddy Bridgewater, I just don't see the upside. Because if it's about Kyle, Vic Fangio trying to save his job to go from 7 wins and he starts, Teddy Bridgewater to get 9 wins with a chance to get in the playoffs, you end up, let's just say, 9-8. And they go, hey, look, in the organization, this was an improvement. I'm 9-8 this year. I should have another year to come back. That's the only reason why I disagree with Teddy Bridgewater starting, because you have a guy in Patrick Mahomes, Kyle, that plays for the Kansas City Chiefs that's going to be around for a long time. Teddy Bridgewater's not going to be able to go toe-to-toe. I need to find a franchise guy, Kyle, that can go toe-to-toe with Kansas City. And I just don't think Bridgewater is the smart move here for my money.
See, I completely disagree, and I'm on the other side of the coin. While I do agree that they absolutely need to find their franchise guy, I'm not sure they're any closer to getting their franchise guy, losing a couple less, winning a couple fewer games with Drew Lock at quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater. There's a lot of good young talent on Denver. They are a legitimate wild card contender with solid quarterback play. I think Teddy Bridgewater puts them there. I would love to have a year or two where the young players on my team are learning how to win, showing some pedigree, being put in tough situations that they maybe wouldn't be put in if it wasn't an important game. And I mean, let's look at the Bears. The Bears were an 8-8 team, snuck themselves right into that little playoff scenario at the end of the year. They were still able to move up in the draft and find who maybe, a lot of people feel, I think Justin Fields is going to be a good young player. That could be their franchise guy. So you don't necessarily have to win 2 or 3 games or have the first through fourth pick to get your franchise guy. There's a lot of other ways to do that. The Broncos, I think, give themselves a chance to be a playoff team. And let's talk about free agency next year and bringing players in. When players go, hey, I'm looking between some teams. Maybe Denver's interesting. They made the playoffs last year. They got their franchise guy, or maybe they're going to get their franchise guy. They're only one play away, so maybe I think winning entices free agents to come to your team. I think it teaches your young players how to win, how to play in important situations. Teddy Bridgewater, for me, is clearly better than Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock is an absolute dumpster fire of a quarterback. There's no shot he's a franchise guy for anyone, in my humble opinion. I don't think you'll ever see Drew Lock, hey, Drew Lock's favored in the second round of the postseason because he's so good. That's just not going to happen. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league for my money. I like what Denver did here. And, as a fan, I don't want to watch teams purposely tanking. I don't want to see another Jaguars-Jets season where they're purposely losing to go get Trevor Lawrence. I want to see some teams play to win, fight for my money. Denver, legitimate outside shot to get into the wild card, and especially the AFC is not super deep. It's really top heavy. I like what the Broncos did here. I think it was the right decision, and I'm glad I don't have to worry about handicapping Drew Lock this year.
Now, I agree. Most organizations, the goal is to win the most football games you can season to season. But I think it's just a little bit caveat. Like if you put the Denver Broncos, Kyle, in the NFC East, I'd be like, you better start Teddy Bridgewater because you're going to win the NFC East and win a division championship and get to the playoffs. Will it mean they get to a Super Bowl? Probably not, even if they played, obviously, in the NFC East. But I just look on the other side of the field in the AFC West. And I see Patrick Mahomes because you can win a few more games, but are you really just going to take a back seat for the next 10 years because you're trying to win a couple more football games than lose, maybe just get in the playoffs? We talk about it, Kyle, because I know, you love the NBA, being on that treadmill, right? Being good enough to get into the playoffs, but never good enough to really compete with much. If I'm looking from a John Elway perspective where they've done it in the past, let's go out and get a real deal quarterback a la Peyton Manning and watch us get to Super Bowls and win Super Bowls with an elite defense like they have. I would have liked to see Drew Lock get the start over the first 3 to 4 weeks because if he does stink with this new talented revamped offense that they have, then he's going to go to the bench and Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season. But also the other counterpoint is there, if Teddy Bridgewater is good enough to get you maybe around the playoffs, that also means, Kyle, instead of drafting 9th, you might draft 21st. And that could, slow down the process of eventually getting that franchise guy you want, because we could both agree in the offseason. Look at this football team, Kyle. If for some reason everything went wrong in Green Bay and there wasn't so many legal issues down in for the Texans, they would have a brand new quarterback and a legitimate Pro Bowler here that they would be doing damage. I just want to see them get that new quarterback franchise guy sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree there. I'm just not sure that – I think with Drew Lock, and their defense, Von Miller coming back, those guys, they're – 6 or 7 wins, and with Bridgewater, 9, maybe 10 and 7. I'm not sure. I think I can see a lot more pros winning a few more games, teaching these young players, developing the rest of the roster. And I'm not sure that even if you're drafting, certainly it's a little bit easier. The trade package is easier, but we've seen plenty of teams move up from the 20s or the teens and find their franchise guy one way or another, put some sort of package together where you're giving up first round picks for years and years and years. So I don't know. I just think there's more pros to winning some games, getting that experience, maybe winning a playoff game or two, getting the fan base excited, teaching the roster how to win, maybe enticing free agents to come there because you're putting a winning formula in place where you're at, as opposed to saying, screw it, let's just lose out and hope we get our franchise guy next year. I hate that mentality in the NFL. I hate it in sports. It's terrible to watch. So me as a fan, and really me, I think as an organization, it's good for them. No one thinks Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the Broncos starter in 5 years. But if he can sort of help get this roster moving along, get the KJ Hamlers, the Cortland Suttons, the Noah Fancies, young offensive players, put them in positions where, hey, I've been here before. It's a big third down in a game we have to win to make the postseason. I think that's more valuable than, we won 4 games and not a single damn play mattered last year. And I still think they can get their franchise guy, whether they win 10 games or 6 games.
No, and that's why it's always nice to agree to disagree in those instances. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see how it does play out. I was just kind of surprised. It was big news in the NFL because that was one of those quarterback battles that you could bet on and see if you can get the position. And for a while, it was right after Drew Lock had the big game. Exactly. Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's why nobody really knows much outside of the guys in the room, because you see Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Drew Lock outplays him in a preseason game. I mean, what are we really talking about here? And then all of a sudden, Fangio goes, hey, I'm close to making my decision. And everyone's like, yep, that's going to be Drew Lock. We knew it all the time. And you see the Teddy Bridgewater news hit, and it turns out that Teddy's going to be starting the season. We'll see how that goes for the Denver Broncos. Let's switch modes here and talk about another quarterback and the saga, Kyle, of Cam Newton. Why do we bring this up? Because it looks like Cam Newton was headed to being the starting quarterback week 1 for the New England Patriots. Now, at the same time, Mac Jones has looked really good, whether it be in practice from the reports that we have, Kyle, or we just see him in, preseason play. He looks like he has the moxie to be a very good NFL quarterback, and why not? The dude went to Alabama, played in the toughest conference in the world, and dominated and won a national championship. He didn't do one of those, Kyle, like, hey, look at all these good quarterbacks in front of me, the Jalen Hurtses of the world, and, Tua Tagovailoa. I'm going to transfer out of here and go to UTEP because I want to play football. He says, you know what? I trust the program here. I'm going to study and learn, and when I get my shot, I'm going to win a national championship. And damn right he did, and propelled that into round 1. We've said this a lot already on the show. It's been, we've been doing this show for months, getting ready for football season, and saying to ourselves, the same way I look sort of at the Broncos situation, Cam Newton's not the future of the Patriots. So why not get the future started right now? And it's not as if, Kyle, we're watching Mac Jones and saying, man, this guy can't play football this year. He needs a whole year to redshirt in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. This is one we 100% agree on. We have for a while. I think this could be what a divine gift the New England Patriots and their fans have gotten, because Cam Newton just apparently can't avoid COVID. Apparently hasn't gotten, I don't know. Get the damn shot, Cam. It seems like everywhere. I don't know if you're running around licking toilets. I don't know what the hell you're doing, Cam Newton, but you can't stay away from COVID. But this is best case scenario for the Patriots. You don't want Cam Newton as your starting quarterback. Cam Newton cannot hit the broadside of a barn. That's cool that he looked good for a quarter against the Eagles in the preseason with all their defensive starters resting. That doesn't mean a damn thing. I don't know why all of a sudden now people are excited about Cam Newton. Cam Newton stinks. He is not a legitimate NFL quarterback anymore. He would be a better H-back or tight end than he is a quarterback. He just simply cannot throw the football. On the flip side, you have a young guy who fits in perfectly with the way Josh McDaniels runs his offense. Are you going to have rookie growing pains? Of course you are. Yeah. But I can't think of a coaching staff more prepared to deal with that than a coaching staff who essentially did that and turned it into the most successful 20-year stretch of any NFL franchise in the history of the league. So, yeah, Mac Jones needs to be the starting quarterback. Congratulations for if the coaching staff wasn't going to do it, thank your lucky stars that the universe decided to get this done for you. To me, if you want to be a serious team this year and make a shot at that wild card spot we sort of talked about where Denver's at, Mac Jones needs to be your quarterback. You have a good defense. You have capable running backs. You brought in some wide receivers and some tight ends. Get the guy in who can actually throw the football. You got to play Mac Jones.
And I agree. I completely agree with that. And also, let's get back to the issue of vaccinated or not vaccinated, because it's pretty apparent throughout the NFL. These guys are healthy. Nobody's having any issues, whether they get sick or not. They might have sniffles. They might sneeze for a day, but they're fine. It's like you're getting a little bit of a head cold, and, the issues aren't, whether or not you have it or don't have it doesn't seem like it matters. But they're going to test. It's going to be a problem all season long. So here's the point of it. If I am Mac Jones, I'm loving life. I'm saying, now, wait, hey, Cam. Hey, trust yourself. Don't ever get it. Don't ever get the vaccine here, because every couple weeks you're probably going to run into a high contact tracing, or this guy had COVID and you were in the room and they go, hey, Cam, were you vaccinated? No, I wasn't. Well, you're out 5 days, but I don't have it. I feel great. I was 20 feet away from it. Doesn't matter. You're out 5 days. You're going to miss this game. And in the back, Mac Jones is like, this is my chance to start, which is exactly what you're seeing right now in camp. Out for 5 days, comes back today. But those 5 extra days of reps, if there was like a topsy-turvy who's going to start week 1, the advantage goes to Mac Jones. But even after that, Kyle, I'm not even talking about now. You're just getting a little, synopsis of what might happen. what happens if you are playing, I don't know, I'm not even looking at the schedule, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're coming to town. It's Thursday. You're ready. Cam's out 5 days because he was a close contact to somebody with COVID. You can't have that as an organization. You cannot absolutely have that. So if I know my quarterback who's going to be vaccinated and he gets it, there's nothing you can do about it. But I know if my guy is around a family member or a close friend or a football player or my team trainer who has COVID and tested positive, I'm still going to play Sunday, whether or not it really affected me there. Because if I get tested every 2 weeks, I believe the NFLPA is doing the testing now, he's going to play. But if you're Cam Newton and you were near the same coach, you're out.
It's the whole thing's bizarre. First of all, I don't think you should be tested at all if you've been vaccinated, whether you catch it or not. That doesn't feel like we're following the science. 99% of all hospitalizations are from people who are unvaccinated. Yeah. You have a less than a 1% chance of passing along, even if you do catch it to somebody else. You have an even smaller chance of being hospitalized if you're vaccinated and catch it. So why the hell are we testing vaccinated players? I think it's absolutely stupid.
If the players were 80 years old, Kyle, they should be tested every day. But if they're 25 years old, they should not be testing every day.
It's absolutely moronic. There was one player, it was before last year, remember, Raquel Armstead. He was going to be the starting guy in Jacksonville.
Yes, correct.
He had a difficult time. So we had one out of, we're talking thousands and thousands
300,000 tests, yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. And luckily he's come around and he's fine now. And that sort of led to the emergence of James Robinson in Jacksonville. It was a great story for the NFL, but it's just stupid. It really is stupid. And the thing I find really funny is the NFL is known for its players. The trainers come in and go, look, it's that famous Lawrence Taylor scene in Any Given Sunday where they're like, look, if you hit somebody with your neck, you could die. And he's like, I don't give a shit. Give me a shot. I want to play. So NFL players are willing to do anything to play. But now the quarterback of your organization won't get a damn vaccine, so you're less at risk to not be there for your team. I don't understand it. It's absolutely bizarre. When you think of NFL players, you think they will live, die, do anything that they have to do to play, but all of a sudden they won't get this vaccine. And to address this in the chat, this guy's a moron on both shows. The unvaccinated are proven. Yes, the unvaccinated people are also testing positive for it. And you're right there. It's not going away. That's what the world needs to figure out. COVID is not going away. It's part of our lives. It's here to stay. Start making NyQuil for COVID.
Yep.
It's not that deadly. The people who are dying from it would die from a sprained toe, for Christ's sake. If you're healthy, young enough, and especially if you get the vaccine, you're 99.5% safe, something like that. Don't quote my numbers here. It's getting ridiculous. The NFL needs to move on. Once these big organizations start moving on and say, okay, we're done with the nonsense, that's when we can start getting back to normal.
Like testing for testing for weed in the NBA, when they used to do it once a year and give you 6 months heads up, like, hey, it's June. I'm just letting you know, November 21st, you're going to be tested for weed. So make sure you kick it a couple days before it. That's what it should be in the NFL. They should still test once a year for COVID to see if you have it when you get your physical. Because it's not about being vaxxed or anti-vax. I'm vaccinated. I love it. Like, I want to go out and I feel comfortable. I'm not scared of going in stores at this point. Yeah. But if it came down to, Kyle, if me and you were doing a show here today and like, hey, the guy who's vaccinated, he's going to be able to do the show and get paid for the rest of the year, while the other guy doesn't. I'm like, hey, man, don't ever get vaccinated, Kyle. I'm going to be here and I'll collect a paycheck for eternity. So keeping it up with Cam Newton, it's not that he's a better quarterback at this time, but if I am a franchise, I'm saying one guy's vaccinated, one guy isn't. I'm going with the vaccinated guy every single time.
100%.
There's not really any issues.
100%. I agree. And the people saying vaccinated people are testing positive too. Yes, there's a few breakthrough cases. That's that way with almost every vaccine that's ever been created, but it's exponentially lower. So you could create those straw men all you want. But the fact is, I agree. If I'm management and I'm looking for a guy that I know will do to make football his life,
he's going to be there. Yep.
And I can count on him to be there. It's not the guy trying to make excuses not to get the vaccine. It's the guy that says, no matter what, I want to be here for this team. I'm going to do it this way. That's my guy. That's the way I would approach things. And I think that's how most leaders would approach things.
Yeah. No, they gave a lot of carrots there to the people that got vaccinated. You know, you can enjoy yourself at the facility, hang out with your boys, eat at the right lunch tables. And again, if there's a high contact there because somebody had COVID and you were in the room and you don't test positive, you're good to go. But if you're not, they are going to make you test every morning early. And also with Cam Newton, doesn't have it, wasn't even a high contact close to somebody with COVID. He just didn't follow the testing protocols. Yep, bang, you're out 5 days. Yep. Imagine at a big game, and particularly we're gamblers here, Kyle. hey, I'm going to go bet this game this week. And, oh, by the way, the starting quarterback is down. Thanks, buddy. So, I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that's going to play into it. Let's keep talking about quarterbacks because that's the name of the game in the preseason. You got to get to the starting line, Kyle, if you want to be a good football team. And talking about Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz, some of the updates. And actually, positive updates for both of these guys. News came out today. No longer on a pitch count, Dak Prescott. So he has about, 2 weeks to get ready for opening day. He's throwing to practice, says he feels really good. We'll see if it emerges, but that's a lot better news than what we were hearing about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. MRIs, is the shoulder banged up? And also Carson Wentz. Saw the video of him running around out here like a spring chicken. So it looks like he's possibly going to be available week 1. So very good news for Colts and also Cowboys backers this season, at least to start.
Yeah, I think it's good for football fans too, right? It's good for the league when the Cowboys are at least sort of in. I love it when the Cowboys lose, and I love it when they're a mess. But I don't know how much of Garrett Gilbert and Ben DiNucci I can handle all year long. So at least they'll be a competent team, and it'll make the opening day of the Prescott and the Cowboys versus Brady. That'll make that a whole lot more fun. And week 1, this is a banger. If Carson Wentz is healthy and ready to go, Seattle and the Colts. That's a fun game. It's Seattle on the road in Indianapolis. I think it's good all around. You and I both expressed that we think, Carson Wentz is – I like the Carson Wentz move to the Colts. I think he will play well if he's healthy. I like the kid, has a lot of effort. I think it makes the Colts offense a little certainly more explosive after last year with Phillip Rivers, and that was still a fun offense to bet on. How often were we taking Colts team totals? So I'm excited. I'm glad Carson Wentz is going to be healthy for week 1. I certainly didn't want to watch Jacob Eason or Sam Ellinger try to deal against Russell Wilson in week 1. Makes the game a whole lot more interesting, makes the Colts live week 1. Happy that both are back. I mean, the more healthy players, the better, and the more players on the field, especially after dealing with all this COVID crap last year, the better, in my opinion.
No, certainly. And trust me, there's a reason why, Kyle, the NFL, all the rules are don't you dare hit that quarterback because as much fun as it was in the 80s and the 90s when quarterbacks were getting their heads taken off in big hits, the game is much worse when you rely on my guys like Ben DiNucci out here to get legitimate starts in prime time football games. We are better off with better quarterbacks that are healthy for the regular season, and it looks like we're going to get that here. Preseason week 3, baby. Underway for us. Usually, Kyle, we got a couple games on a Thursday night, but we don't tonight. They're going to start Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then obviously next week, everybody's off as they prepare, cut down the rosters, and get ready for opening day. Going to be wonderful stuff, man. Like we have, shows to do on real game lines, instant information, matchups here, because when we look at the preseason, there's not really too many matchups to go over. So let's hit the card and briefly talk about some of these games that are on Friday, Kyle. Indianapolis and Detroit, Philadelphia and the New York Jets, Pittsburgh and Carolina, Minnesota and Kansas City. If we look at the lines here, most of the time we saw in week one of the preseason, low numbers, like 31, 32, 33 is totals. There's a couple mixed matched ones here because we have Indianapolis and Detroit at 31.5 as they opened up offshore, now sit at 32.5. What does that mean? Probably not going to get too good of quarterback play in this game. Take a look at Philadelphia and the New York Jets. It's a -4 towards the Jets in this game with an over-under of 33 to 34.5, depending where you're shopping at. Not sure who's actually playing or not for the Eagles. And keep in mind, last week, when people were revved up like myself, I get to watch this game tonight. We'll see Jalen Hurts for about a quarter or two, see what happens. Oh, by the way, nobody's playing here right up to the kickoff. You're probably going to get a lot more of that, Kyle, which is why that sits at -4. Pittsburgh and Carolina, 3.5 across the board. Keep in mind in this one, how about this move, Kyle? FanDuel in New Jersey opened Pittsburgh at a -4.5. FanDuel now sits a -3.5, but to the Carolina Panthers, and then Minnesota, Kansas City, a 4-point line in that one as well. So much movement, and I have to say, enjoy preseason, take a notebook out and say, you know what, this guy looks decent, this guy looks decent. And then when week 1 hits, Kyle, throw that notebook out.
That's 100% right. Like none of this matters at all. You got to feel pretty bad if you're Dwayne Haskins, right, with that line movement. Basically, the only news we've gotten about that game is I'm starting so I can try to solidify my spot on the roster. And everyone's like, Dwayne Haskins is starting in the preseason, 7-point line movement to the Carolina Panthers and Sam Darnold and, PJ Walker and everyone else they're going to throw out there. That doesn't bode a lot of confidence for Dwayne Haskins. But I will say this, when I see the Steelers, we've talked about this, Mike Tomlin's a raw, physical, wants to win every game type of guy. We're going to get a lot of Dwayne Haskins who, whether he's good or not, we know we love to fade him.
Sure.
it's preseason, a bad defense, and a guy fighting for a job who started NFL games. I don't know. I might be interested in that 3.5 points for the Steelers as an underdog here. But other than that, I mean, are we really touching any of these games? I mean, look at some of these. Look at some of the lines here. 8.5, Denver's favorite over the Rams. What the hell is going on? 9.5 in the Bills-Packers game. Like, good Lord. I know the Packers probably won't have Jordan Love. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Obviously, no Aaron Rodgers, so it gets real depleted there, and Trubisky looked good against the Bears. But we're going to lay 10 points on the Bills in the preseason with Trubisky at quarterback. No, thank you. This is the most unpredictable of all the weeks, 100%. I would not be messing around here. I do have some slight interest in the Steelers, looking at them as underdogs just because of the way Mike Tomlin coaches, and it's the final week of the preseason. But other than that, I mean, are we betting any of this? I don't see how you can't.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch it play out because, again, we don't know who's actually playing. And keep in mind as well, like I like to go by what I've seen in the past. And you know what I have never seen, Kyle? A preseason with 3 games where I don't know how each team treats it. Because over the decades of the poor preseasons, we pretty much know game 1, nobody. Game 4, nobody. Game 2, a little bit of guys. Game 3, a little bit more of those guys. But now some teams are playing their starters into week 3 and taking a little bit differently. It's the same prognosis, Kyle, that we see every year. It used to be week 17. Now it's going to be week 18 with the extended games. You know, who's going to play if they have something wrapped up? Some teams care about the scoreboard no matter what happens. We're a football team. We're going to play this weekend, even though we've already clinched. Where other teams go, we're not going to play a single starter if we can try to avoid it. Now, in the NFL in those late weeks, you still only have like a 55-man roster. You can't bench every single player on the team and they have to play. But the key positions, quarterback, running back, left tackle, right tackle, cornerback, they're not going to play in those games. So it'll be interesting to see how they treat it. But there's 4 games that we're going to take a look at here on the preseason. Friday night, went over those games a little bit here. Not much interest. Tampa Bay and Houston. The reason why we bring this game up here and try to take a look, Kyle, I don't agree again with the line here. We talked about this opening week. Do you remember when I was like, no, wait a second. Cincinnati stinks. But Tampa Bay doesn't give a damn about the preseason. They got bigger goals than playing well in the first quarter of a preseason game. And actually, outright, Cincinnati won that game. The same premise that it's been so profitable here in the preseason. I'm taking the horrendous football teams, Kyle, that are taking training camp so serious because they know what's going to happen in the regular season. And that brings up a case with the Houston Texans. They're a really bad football team. You don't want to be David Culley, the coach, and go 0 for 3, which you're not going to because I already won a couple games. 0 for 3 in the preseason, then get absolutely wasted for 17 games. And ownership goes, hey, man, maybe I know we didn't give you we gave you a tough draw to deal with. But you can't tell me going 2-15 in the regular season and 0-3 in the preseason that this is a step in the right direction. So I look at these teams that are horrendous, like Houston, and getting more than a field goal. Sign me up for the Texans here, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean the team you see play. This is one of those rare teams. This might be their starting roster their starting lineup week 1. Like they don't have anybody. Nobody. I mean, it's Tyrod Taylor, David Sims. Like Deshaun Watson's not going to. There's no way he's the starting quarterback week 1. It's still really weird how the NFL is not addressing this. Like, what if the Texans go? What if they just go, hey, we're going to start Deshaun Watson week 1? Does the NFL scramble? Go, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. But all these guys are playing for their life. They're trying to be the starter. I like the Texans here. Tampa Bay will not have a single significant player playing in this game. None of their top 40 players will be playing in this game, while the Texans will have their top 40 players outside of Deshaun Watson. Everyone will be in uniform for the most part. This is their Super Bowl. You are right. It's going to be an emotional little this is as close as they're going to get to playing an important game. I'm serious. It is. Texans +4. It's just crazy to me. It seems like they don't understand the fact that Tampa Bay is not playing anybody. I mean, no one of significance.
Yeah. No, and it makes it the whole part of it is like camp is very serious for these teams trying to get the new coaches in here that they know they're going to be bad. It's very important then for them to win football games here just for the psychology of the team. Like, hey, man, we got rolled 3 straight preseason games. Now we got 17 weeks to go. Nobody thinks we're going to be any good. I think these are benchmarks for these football teams. Let's take a look at Arizona and New Orleans here. This one will be interesting as well because we take a look at the totals, 34, and a lot of these are going to be lower. If you're asking me if I just had to take one choice here, Kyle, right? One choice over all of these football games. or to say you can either take the over in every game or the under in every game, regardless of the game, it's going to be the unders for me. Now, Arizona, obviously, Kyler Murray, I doubt he's going to play, and if he does, maybe a series or two. New Orleans is favored, which is interesting to me for the only reason I like the overall quarterback situation better. Is Jameis Winston going to play in this game? I don't know. Probably not. How about backup quarterback Taysom Hill? Probably not in this football game either. But you still have like Ian Book on that roster, Trevor Siemian, guys that have still, a little bit of talent. But I don't agree with the line of laying 3 to 3.5 in this point. Now, also, taking this over into the regular season as well, Kyle, you saw a quote come out that basically, Taysom Hill makes me want my head to explode. He should be like, I found a rhythm in the NFL that I can stick around for 10 years and make big money and barely play in football games, but still have a key part in whether or not my team loses and also wins or loses, and also be a key contributor here going at 20% of the snaps or less every week. And his quote was basically like, well, if they don't think I'm a starter, maybe I got to leave next year. Like, you're a Swiss Army knife. You have the perfect job in the NFL, in a great organization. And you're like, I got to get out of here because I want to go play for the Jaguars or the Jets. Jeez.
Yeah. Who do you think you're going to start for? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's okay. I like his mobility and stuff, but you're right. He's got a cool role. Everyone knows who Taysom Hill is. He is that Swiss Army knife sort of thing that you don't get all the time, and it's really unique. A quarterback playing wide receiver and making tackles on kicks, running the ball as a running back. You just don't see it. It's really cool. And that's exactly why you're not sure when you look at the Saints on paper in the preseason, like, ooh, quarterback battle, you get two good quarterbacks, they're going to win this game. But if they have decided on Jameis, it's unlikely he plays. Even if Taysom Hill is like, okay, he's going to be the backup, it's not like they're going to give him a ton of snaps at quarterback because they want to keep him healthy. With Michael Thomas out, this guy is a really important factor on offense, especially on third downs and in the red zone. So you don't want to risk his health heading into week one. Tough week one game, I believe, as well. Isn't it Saints Packers week one? I mean, it's a good week one game.
They're getting beat.
So no, then what are you getting at quarterback?
Yeah.
Tough for me. That this one's a stay away game because again, I doubt Kyler Murray plays. I mean, that was the downfall of the Cardinals last year. Is one little hiccup on that shoulder for Kyler Murray took one bad hit, and that's what really took them from being almost certainly in the playoffs to out of the playoffs. I think they play it safe here. I would certainly lean the under in this game because I think you see a lot of third and fourth string backup quarterbacks in this game.
You got the Clippers. I see the LAC there. I'm like, hey, man, Clippers are in action today. It's the Chargers and the Seattle Seahawks. And we got line movement here, Kyle. Do we? Pinnacle opens -1 for Seattle. You know what they sit now today? -6. FanDuel here in New Jersey, -1. You know where they sit? 5.5. Primarily, it's 5.5 across the board at -110. So a big line movement. And this goes for, new head football coach for the Chargers, just basically says, we do not care about the preseason. We are playing nobody, including our young stud at quarterback, Justin Herbert. Now, my question, Kyle, is I don't understand that. And the reason I don't understand that is he's still a young quarterback. It's really going to hurt him if he gets in under center for 3 or 4 series in the preseason. You think he's actually going to get hurt? Well, then he can get hurt at any time, anywhere. And Kyle, why even have him out there in practice? Because if he takes a 7-step drop back, oops, there goes the ankle, and we have an injury in practice. I don't understand it, but it's the way they believe it. If I'm looking at that line move, do you want to jump in and take the 5.5 now when you could have got it roughly a pick 'em? No. Do you want to lay 5.5 in a preseason game? Probably not. But there's a reason why that line is racing up. But if I'm not going to get too many starters in this football game from a Chargers perspective, I'll go under again on the 35.
Yeah. Under 35, that's the only way to play it. How could you pick a side? It's not like you're going to see Russell Wilson do anything in this game either. So it's just whoever. For the life of me, I'm trying to think. Is it Tyrese something or other, the backup for Seattle? I can't even remember who the backup quarterback for the Seahawks is. So, yeah, you can't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I think a lot of that Charger stuff, you're probably getting that from the front office. Got to remember, this is a team with a lot of PTSD. They've had a lot of bad injuries.
Geno Smith. Come on, man. Geno Smith.
Geno Smith.
Sean Mannion.
I forgot he's still in the league.
Yeah, how could you forget that guy?
Geno Smith. Absolutely unbelievable. His jaw's not broken in the It's always a win for him, right, when he's not getting knocked out by one of the linebackers. So, yeah, I mean, just don't touch this game. It's an under. It's obviously an under. I think the Chargers are just, I mean, when you look at last year, all the injuries they had and the preseason injuries to Derwin James, et cetera, over the last couple of years, They're just trying to get a couple of healthy games here, but yeah, I'll take the under on this one. Can't trust either side. You just don't know what you're going to get at quarterback.
A lot of love out there for Chris Hogan. Out there,
love Chris. So 7-Eleven, always open.
There you go, man. Get ready. Lacrosse, football, does it all here. How about if we flip it over to Sunday's NFL action here? Las Vegas and San Francisco. This one is interesting to me because what are you going to get probably a look at in this game, Kyle?
A lot of Trey Lance.
Little Trey Lance should be intriguing. That's why we open up Pinnacle offshore at -1.5. That now sits 3.5. 3.5 still here in FanDuel. Primarily 3.5s across the board, 35.5 overall. So as you look at this game, and sometimes that's what because when guys, now look, I preface this by saying it probably a little bit wrong. The guys always have something to prove because even if you don't think you're going to make the football team, you want to put some, good tape out on the field to see what you can do. And of course, even from John Gruden's perspective, is Carr going to play in this game? Maybe a series, maybe not even at all. But when you look at their backups here, Marcus Mariota, Nathan Peterman, you do have some NFL talent behind them there. So if you're saying, okay, if Trey Lance is going to get a half, I don't know, does he light it up, Kyle? Does he have 3 touchdown drives in the first half? Probably not. But from looking from a quarterback perspective, yeah, maybe might have 3 in the first 3 possessions over here at this point. But when you're trying to look up as to pay, say, backup quarterbacks and try to differentiate on how that's going to play out or who's going to get the playing time, Kyle, in the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter, don't get me wrong, Shanahan's, if you give me a whole list of, say, Donnie got one game, I need you to pick a coordinator to pick my plays for this game. It's Kyle Shanahan all day, every single day, 7 days a week, 365. So is it the Nate Sudfeld show after that, who was horrendous for the Philadelphia Eagles? I think I trust the quarterbacking situation a little bit more for the full game from a Raiders perspective here.
Yeah, especially with Mariota, right? He looked actually really solid. I know a lot of Raider fans that wish he was the starter and not Derek Carr, and I don't blame them because I agree. Marcus Mariota is better than Derek Carr. Derek Carr is absolutely god-awful. But, yeah, you're right here. You can't take the 49ers on the full game here. That doesn't make any sense. And I know a lot of people are jumping on Kyle Shanahan won't announce a starting quarterback. I will announce it for him, and I will do it for you right now. Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starting quarterback week 1. He's not going to play in this preseason game. Trey Lance will make some really cool plays, electric plays. I think he's looked awesome in the preseason. There's going to be a lot of pressure to play him. These announcers going to be packages. Nice. That ball is rolling, but it ain't happening right now. I agree. I think you get more solid play. Nathan Peterman, I used to think Nathan Peterman, until Ben DiNucci played quarterback last year, I thought Nathan Peterman was the worst quarterback I've ever seen play an NFL game. That's what I thought.
What was the game he had 5 picks? I think it was against, I want to say the Chargers where I bet that game. And it was so, when you get a game like that you bet the opposite side of a quarterback doing that, it's the greatest feeling in the world, man. It really
100%. The Peterman is not good. But in the preseason, I've covered preseason the last 2 years. I did it, or the 2 years, 18 and 19 for DFS. Nathan Peterman's the man in preseason. He comes out in deals after that embarrassing year in Buffalo where everyone said, is he the worst player to ever play quarterback? John Gruden's done something with him. He's actually decent in the preseason. So I'd take the points here, take the Raiders, and I don't even mind him on the money line at +155. You're just going to, like you said, you're going to get Nate Sudfeld after they're done exposing Trey Lance a little bit. Not good. I'd much rather have Nathan Peterman than Nate Sudfeld, and that's saying something.
Wild stuff here. And there's a lot more games on the board. We're not going to hit each and every game because it doesn't make sense in the preseason to do that as well. But I did want to stick to that same point, Kyle, that when we're taking a look at Tampa Bay and Houston, just backing Houston because they're bad and they need that moral victory by getting a win in the preseason, maybe over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The same thing still goes for me, Kyle. Miami and Cincinnati, 127 to 128 on the rotation. They're at home. They're a -2 favorite now. They were getting 2.5 points, but it's another one, Kyle, that if you watch Cincinnati play, they're trying to win games in the preseason because, again, setting yourself up maybe to have some good morale once the season starts because the lights might get turned up pretty quickly in Cincinnati. So those are the type of game situations that I look at. The rest of the card leaves a lot to be desired here. Now, Justin Fields is going to get some time, probably fun to watch as a -3-point favorite over Tennessee. And quite frankly, in the new age of COVID in the NFL, 9 players on the Titans have gotten COVID so far, at least tested for COVID. I don't know if this game is going to be played or is it's week 3. Nobody really cares about the preseason games as is. They just like those joint practices and getting ready. So I'm pretty sure that outside of Tennessee saying, no. We sell out every game, even in the preseason, because you have to buy it with your season ticket package. This game must be played because we're not refunding 65,000 tickets to this football game. But outside of that, that is the card here for the preseason schedule. Let's go to good to go and not so fast. Let's start with good to go. And what we mean by that is which teams heading into this National Football League season, Kyle, do we take a look at and say, you know what? They should be good to go when the season opens up. We're going to look in just a second at the actual schedules early in the season that they have. But from football teams that you say right out of the gate you expect big things from, it's still the big boys, right, Kyle? The Buffalo Bills. I expect big things from the Cleveland Browns right out of the gate as long as they stay healthy through the final week and a half here of the preseason. You flip it over to the NFC. Obviously, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you expect big things from. The Green Bay Packers, you expect things. And I'm telling you, and I know it's very public, I love the Rams this year, Kyle. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. And look, I'm a 49er fan, so I don't want this to seem like a homer pick. But if I'm just looking at the schedule, like Cleveland's, they've got Kansas City early on. Tampa Bay's got a couple of tough games early on. But you look at the 49ers, they do start their first 2 games on the road, but it's against Detroit and the Eagles. You expect them, everyone expects them to wax both of their teams. Then they get their first home game week 3 at home. Sunday Night Football. The 49ers are notoriously good in primetime at home over the last 30 years. And they're playing the Green Bay Packers. Now people go, oh, the Packers are really, really good. That's a tough game. They don't match up well with the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan has Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur's number. The Packers struggle against the run. They struggle against physical defenses. And Aaron Rodgers is a 500 quarterback on the road. That's a game I have zero doubt in my mind that if the 49ers are healthy, they beat the Packers on Sunday Night Football. It'll be one of my easiest handicaps of the week. They're going to get a short number. I can't wait for it because if you go back and look at 2019 when these teams were healthy and pretty similar to what they are now, honestly, there's not a whole lot of big differences here. The 49ers absolutely whitewashed the Packers in the NFC Championship game and during the regular season. I think the 49ers can jump out to a nice 3-0 start.
Yeah, you got it. And how about before we get to the not so fast here, let's go to some of these teams good to go in another aspect of it by saying, okay, we think they're good football teams, but how advantageous the schedule is. I picked 2 teams out that I think should get off to a good start with being a good football team. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dallas, and Atlanta at home. If you were to pick the way to get crowned as a regular season, as a Super Bowl championship and head into the next regular season, get those good vibes going right away, I think there's a really good chance that they're going to be 2-0, obviously, through the first 2 games. And also, how about this one? The New England Patriots, regardless of quarterback, they're going to open up with the Dolphins at home. I like the Dolphins, but the Patriots should win that football game and then get the Jets on the road. So 2 teams here that I'm looking at, one from the NFC and one from the AFC, just looking at the schedule, getting the good mojo moving forward. How about some teams for you good to go here entering into the regular season?
Well, I mentioned the 49ers with their schedule. I just think that's a really nice way to start the season. And some, there's going to be some other teams here. I think the Washington football team doesn't have the worst start in the world. I like this defense an awful lot. They get to play the Chargers week 1. That's going to be a rude awakening for the Chargers on the road. They didn't play any of their starters during the preseason. For my money, I think Washington right now is the best defense in the league. And then you go over to week 2, again, a weak NFC East. Then you get over to week 2. Let me pull up their schedule. I had all these memorized, but as I get older, I forget all of them. They get to play the Giants on Thursday Night Football at home. So they get to go home on a short week, play the Giants, a team they should absolutely wax. I think the Washington could start out 2-0, and that might be all the start you need in the NFC least with how bad that division is. So Washington and the 49ers stand out to me in terms of teams with a nice little easy start to the season. And Tampa Bay, obviously. Good Lord.
Yeah, interesting stuff here. And let's take a look here at not so fast, Kyle, heading into the regular season. But we know who the bad football teams are. So you don't have to go over and be like, hey, I expect Cincinnati to get slow started out of the gate. It's pretty much probably going to be a foregone conclusion. But taking a look at some of these teams that stumble, I look at the Philadelphia Eagles because their schedule is hellacious over the first half. Gets a little bit easier after the bye week late in the season where I think they can pick up some victories, enough to get their season win total. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the division in the NFC. No, I don't. I don't think they're going to win the NFC East. I think they'll be competitive, but it doesn't help here, Kyle, where you go to Atlanta on the road. You say, wait a second, Donnie, Atlanta. No, Julio Jones, not a good football team. You still have to remember, Jalen Hurts is going to go on the road and play a team in a dome with probably 75,000 fans in that dome, screaming, loud, cheering, brand new head coach for the Eagles. That might be a hindrance here. If that game was at home where they played Atlanta, I would actually say the Eagles would be able to win that football game. Do I think they can win? Possibly, but I think that's going to be tough. But then you take a look, Kyle, home against San Francisco. Yeah, it's home. It's great. West Coast team coming East Coast, but I think it's pretty clear the 49ers are a better overall football team than the Philadelphia Eagles. Then they go on the road to play the Dallas Cowboys in the division. It's hard to win on the road as is, but then also, Kyle, home versus Kansas City. Yikes, Eagles. Second one I have is the Vegas Raiders. Home against Baltimore. Hard enough to beat the bullies of the regular season and the Baltimore Ravens. Then you go on the road at Pittsburgh, West Coast to East Coast. Not good looks there for the Raiders and the Eagles.
Yeah, the Raiders were the one that I really circled. And then you talk about you've got the Baltimore week 1, then Miami, and then you go out and play the Steelers as well. That's a tough 3-game stretch for the Raiders. I think that's going to be quite the difficult little run there. And I look at a team like the Chargers too. So we talked about Washington week 1. That's a tough defense. Like I said, for my money, I think it's the best defense in the league, despite what apparently the Zach Wilson burner account here on the chat box thinks. That Washington defense is legit, probably the best front 7 there, the addition of William Jackson III. It's going to be tough. And then when you get over here to week 2 for the Chargers, things just start. I have them on the outside looking in. They're going to be at home against Dallas. We'll see how that offense looks. Then you get to week 3. That's where I thought it started getting hard, if I remember right, for the Chargers. Then it's on the road at Kansas City for the Chargers. So you could see a 1-2, 0-3 start really, really easy. That week 2 game becomes really, really important now when you're playing Dallas after that week 1 game as well. Chargers, Raiders, couple teams in the AFC West. It's going to be tough. A lot of traveling for the Raiders too. They're on the road, Baltimore, then all the way back at home. That's a Monday night game, of course, short week. Then you're at home, then you're traveling all the way. So a lot of travel for the Raiders, a lot of travel for the Chargers. Tough 3 weeks for a couple of AFC West teams.
Yeah, certainly. So, it's fun. We got 2 weeks, as we said, 2 weeks. It's 5/16 now on the East Coast on a Thursday. 2 weeks and about 2 hours, we're going to be watching live NFL football. You get after it. So I'm really looking forward to that stuff, and we'll have some fun with it. So some final thoughts here on the show. Now, I'd like to talk some things and say, how are we going to do here? Are you ready for some football at this point? Because I am ready for it here. Am I looking forward to week 3 of the preseason? No, not particularly. But even college football, Kyle, kicks off on Saturday. You actually have some real competitive games. Week 1 in college football is the following weekend, followed by that Thursday night extravaganza, kicking off a full weekend of NFL football. Which the best part about it is, what I do like is there's no bye weeks. Everybody plays. You get excited. We're going to be doing some great football shows. Still determining exactly what days some of the shows are going to come out. But you guys know we'll be here for the Key Show each and every Thursday, breaking every single game down, going over some best bets that we have on the card, some good sides, great information. The crew is going to be behind the scenes, doctoring up everything on video for us here, giving us the best graphics. And then, of course, maybe the most fun you can have on a single show, the most well-attended live show on the network. That is the Sunday noon kickoff football show where we go 12 to 1, tell you exactly what's going on, one final broad stroke, and that gets so much attention in the chat box and so much fun to do, Kyle. I am ready to go, and I like to say I'm rested and ready because we know that you're at hand, because I look at this weekend and I look at next weekend like, these are the last 2 weekends that I'm actually going to be, quote unquote, alive until after the Super Bowl when it's the dead of winter. I look out my window right now and like, man, it's 90 degrees and muggy here. The next time I look out that window, it's going to be 22 degrees and dark, Kyle.
Exactly. I'll be freezing out here in my studio as usual with orange lights and them telling me to turn it off. Man, we are 2 weeks away from regular season football. Of course, that first week 1 is going to be a lot of fun. I will be live in Vegas, so that Sunday morning show, I'm going to be in rare form for our first show of the season. Looking forward to that. Can't wait for regular season, man. I am ready. This weekend, I'll probably watch a little bit of preseason, catch, a quarter here and a quarter there. But other than that, time to rest up and get ready because it's going to be a mad scramble for the next few months.
Yeah, we got big things doing here at SBR. Again, guys, thanks for all the support you give us here, because I know we're talking about preseason football. It's not the most exciting thing, but we've had these weekly powwows for a couple of months now, just keeping up to date, talking a little NFL, getting the juices flowing. And before you know, we are going to be kicking off, because I remember Kyle doing the shows like May, June, like, hey, 9 weeks till football season, 12 weeks till football season. Now we're actually leaning right up against it. So when we do the show next Thursday, that is going to be a nice prep show. We haven't determined exactly what we're going to do with the show, but I have a feeling like we probably should be going over some team totals before the season, maybe a pick for NFL MVP, because those shows don't make sense and give that in April. Who's the MVP? Well, okay. Well, now that we see the final starting gate of who's going to be in, who's going to be out, we'll have some fun with that show next Thursday. So stick with us here. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in as we wrap it up and get out of here on an NFL Thursday, 2 weeks away from National Football League action. I'm Donnie Seymour, along with Kyle Purviance with the sportsbookreview.com football team. And as always, good luck on those wagers.